Hello, welcome to Bob's Dungeon. My name's Bob, I'll be your host. In the 80s, a cartoon came out called Robotech, and it was kind of a lot of people's first look at anime. Robotech was put out by a company called Harmony Gold, and it was made up of a couple of different animes from Japan that they managed to put together and come up with the show Robotech. And since then, that technique has been used by other companies for other popular shows, such as the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. But we're not going to talk about that. You can find information on that kind of stuff on other YouTube videos. Robotech itself was very popular when it was out, and it still got a very big following today. And there was lots of merchandise put out for it. One of the things that was put out was they had novels for it. They also had a role-playing game that came out for it. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. The Robotech role-playing game. This book has 110 pages and a copyright of 1989. This book is the 6th printing of the book. It was published by Palladium Games, and all of the artwork in this book is in black and white, and has kind of got the Palladium feel to it. It's pretty decent, so let's go ahead and look at that artwork. This is the first picture we see when we open the book. All of the artwork in this book is in black and white. And it's pretty decent, with a heavy concentration on the different types of mecha in this game. It even gives us a good look at the different Zentradi mecha in this game. I even included the picture of a player's favorite mecha of mine that named it something so vulgar I can't mention here. To play this game, what you're going to need is, of course, a copy of this core rulebook and a full set of dice. A full set of dice containing a 20-sided die, a 12-sided die, preferably two 10-sided dice for rolling both percentiles and tens, an 8-sided die, a 6-sided die, and a 4-sided die. Character creation in this game is pretty standard for a Palladium game, and the first thing you do is you roll up your attributes. The attributes are intelligence quotient, mental endurance, mental apathy, physical strength, physical prowess, physical endurance, physical beauty, and speed. And the way you determine these attributes is you roll 4 6-sided dice, and you add the 3 highest dice together. If your total is a 16, 17, or 18, that's considered an exceptional attribute, and you get the bonus of adding the 4th die to it. So you can have a really good attribute, which gives you a grand total of anywhere from 3 to 24 in your starting attribute. Your physical attributes can be altered further in character creation by the physical skills you choose. We'll get to that. After you got your attributes figured up, you figured out your hit points. Your starting hit points are your physical endurance plus a d6 roll. And then you gain a d6 for every level you gain. And that's for all the classes. You then figure up your SDC. And your SDC is structural damage capacity. And the way that works is it's extra damage you can take. They have to get rid of all your SDC before they can get rid of your hit points. Your SDC is pretty much your cuts and abrasions, bruises and so forth. And once it's gone, then you start taking real damage on your hit points, which is your internal bleeding, broken bones, and so forth. When all your hit points are gone, you're dead. After you figure up your SDC, each class has its own SDC rating to start with. And your military specialists get 30 SDC to start with. Your Destroid and Veritech pilots get 25 SDC to start with. All the other classes get 20 SDC to start with. And your SDC will not gain any points as you gain levels, but your starting skills that you choose, some of the physical skills will give you extra SDC to start with. And After you get your SDC figured out, you then pick an alignment. And there are 3 core alignments in this game, each broken up into smaller components. You have good alignments, which are principled and scrupulous. You have selfish alignments, which are unprincipled and anarchist. Then you have evil alignments, which are miscreant, aberrant, and diabolical. But just because they're evil, don't really let them fool you. The aberrant alignment, you have a code of honor, and in other games they have talked about examples of the aberrant alignment. Some examples would be characters such as Han Solo, Casey Jones, and so forth. And those guys aren't bad guys, but they are evil alignments. After that, you'll pick a class. The classes you have to choose from are the Destroid Pilot, the Veritech Fighter Pilot, the Communications Engineer, the Electrical Engineer, the Field Scientist, the Mechanical Engineer, and the Military Specialist. And each of these give you your starting skills and other abilities that your character will start with. And in the back of the book, they also have rules for creating a Zentradi character. Your Zentradi character will be a micronized Zentradi. The Zentradi, when they came to Earth, were giants, but they got this process called micronization, which they can shrink themselves down to human size. Now, you could play a full-size Zentradi, but you will have to get with your game master and have him okay that. But there are rules in here for that. There is a table in here for insanities. Your character starts off sane, a good mind, but as you adventure, certain traumas and so forth might cause your character to pick up quirks and insanities, and they got some tables in here for that. There's also an optional set of tables in character creation in which you can roll up your character's age, physical build, where he was born, different personality quirks, family relations, and so forth. But that's all optional. And that's pretty much it for character creation. There are all kinds of things in this book for you to use. There's an equipment section, which has all the equipment you could use in this game. It also has a list of the different mecha that are used in Robotech, the Destroids, which are non-transformable mecha, and then the Veritech Fighter, which is a transformable mecha, changes from jet to a robot, and it's got a Guardian mode, which is something in between. And the mecha in this game, they don't have SDC, they have MDC, which is mega damage capacity. 1 point of mega damage equals 100 points of SDC. So in order to do damage to a vehicle with mega damage, you're going to have a weapon that does mega damage. Now, if you have a standard weapon and you somehow do 100 points of SDC damage, it still won't affect the mecha. It has to be mega damage. But if you get hit by a weapon that does mega damage, then whatever that damage rolls up as, you times it by 100, and that's how much SDC damage you take. And that's pretty cool. It's got a section here on the skills, and it goes through the different skill lists and programs that you can find. And the physical skills will actually add to your character's physical attributes and his MDC, which is pretty cool. It's a way for you to beef your character up a little bit at character creation. It's got 3 different forms of hand-to-hand combat in here, determined by the class you choose. There's basic, expert, and martial arts. And as you gain levels, these do different things, pluses and stuff, to different things, extra attacks, so forth. And there's also a section here detailing the Zentradi equipment, the Zentradi mecha that they use, which calling them mecha is kind of generous. They're battle pods, and they're made so the pilot sits really cramped inside. They're made to be cheap and disposable, which is how the Robotech masters really looked at the Zentradi, but that's for another time. And it gives a little bit of background of what has happened to Earth. And when this book was written, the future was pretty much before where we are now in time. There was a great civil war called the uh, Global Civil War that took place during the 90s. And then all the countries pretty much put the war aside and came together when the SDF showed up. And that's where all the robo-technology came from. But it does a good job of laying out the timeline for you in this game and lets you know what the state the Earth is in and the things going on there. Pretty much right up to the point of the Invid invasion, which is its own book and a continuation of this at the same time. But we'll look at that in another video. This book, being a Palladium book, it's fully compatible with all the other Palladium games, so you could throw your Robotech stuff into a Rifts game, or have it cross over with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or Palladium Fantasy, whatever your twisted mind can come up with. Being a Palladium game, it uses the standard Palladium rules. All the skills that your character has are listed as a percentile, and to use them, you roll percentile, and you have to score equal to or under whatever that percentile is in order to successfully use the skill. If you roll over that, you fail, and as you gain levels, the percentage on your skills goes up, but it can only go up to 98 because there's always a margin for error. Combat is pretty simple. You roll a 20-sided die. If you roll a 3, if you roll a 1, 2, 3, or 4, you miss. If you roll a 5 or better, you hit, and you roll whatever the damage is for the weapon you're using is. This can be modified by wearing armor. And the way armor works is it has its own armor class. And we'll say that your armor class, we'll say, for example, that you're wearing armor that has a 12 in armor class. What this means is if they roll over a 5, they still hit you, but the damage is done to the armor. So the armor's SDC depletes. Once all of its SDC is gone, the damage is done to the character. Now, if they roll over the armor's AC, which in our example is 12, so if they roll a 13 or better, then they've managed to bypass your armor, and the damage is done to you and not the armor. So that's pretty cool. In the back of the book, they have some write-ups of some of the core characters from the series. They also have the statistics for the SDC, which is the Super Dimensional Fortress, or SDF, I mean. And that's pretty neat. There's no character sheet in this book. If there was at any point, then somebody ripped it out before I got the book. But it's got everything you need to get going and play in a Robotech game. Which brings me to 3 questions. Would I play a character in this game? And I'd have to say absolutely. I liked Robotech. I still like Robotech. This is a pretty good game. I like Palladium. I know some people's got a problem with Palladium due to how long it takes to make a character, but I don't have a problem with it. Would I run this game? Yes, I would, and yes, I have. One of my favorite games that I've ever run was a Robotech game. Would I recommend this game? And again, I'm going to say yes. If you're a fan of Robotech or like big mechas in a game, then this would definitely be a book for you to check out. And that's pretty much all I got to say for Robotech, the role-playing game right now. Thank you for joining me at a look at this game, and hopefully you'll join me next time, where we'll talk about something else. Bye.